Welcome to Speak Out. I'm Sandy Galiff, a member of the New York State Assembly, representing parts of northern Westchester and parts of Putnam County. And today we're really going to be talking about such an interesting topic. There was an event called Sitting is the New Smoking. And I just thought that that was very exciting. And so I've invited the person that presented that, and it's Dr. Nicole Belkin. Welcome, Nicole. And you're an orthopedic surgeon working at the New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital in Peekskill. So I was so excited about the program you were putting together because I thought I sit so much, and I had been a former smoker, well in my early 20s. And I was thinking, oh, what a great program. And then I wasn't able to come. So I thought, okay, this is a way for you to share it with all of our viewers. So what were you doing? How did you get involved in this?
So full disclosure, I can't take credit for the kitschy term or the majority of the research that supports this statement. But in actuality, there's a lot of science behind this statement. Out of the Mayo Clinic and Harvard and Yale and Johns Hopkins Medicine and Stanford Health, where they were really seeking to answer the question, is it harmful to your health to have a sedentary, not necessarily lifestyle, but profession? And they followed many people over years to compare activity levels and later subsequent health issues. And they, after good science, found that even when you have good exercise habits, there are negative consequences of sitting for a full day at the office of 8 to 12 hours. And so they're really trying to get the message out that it's important to move with regularity and not just segment your day from your activity to your non-activity.
Well, that's so interesting because I remember probably before the computer age, total computer age, people would go and they go to the gym and they had an exercise routine that was either early morning, after work, lunchtime, or whatever, weekends. But their life was a little different at the office, I guess. They weren't sitting here with a computer in front of them. So all of these experts and scientists and reviewers, I guess, were looking at that lifestyle change just in the workday, Monday through Friday or weekends or whatever.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of sociology that goes into the changes in people's day and health. If you look at the 1960s, believe it or not, the American diet was not particularly more caloric rich, but the average American was 30 pounds lighter. And I think it's what you pointed out. We were more active in our jobs. Less people were tied to laptops and computers, and commuting on public transport was more popular, or having a longer walk. And today the average American walks to their garage, drives to the office, walks a few steps into the office. If you don't go out of your way to get some extra distance, you can walk 1,000 steps and have had a full day and be tired at the end. But we all know, based on the American Heart Association recommendations, that everybody should be getting 10,000 steps a day, but you really do often have to go out of your way to find them if you have a profession that's largely intellectual.
So what's going to happen if we don't do something about this? I mean, obviously with smoking, and that's what they're relating to, we had, when I smoked, it was because I didn't know that it was going to harm me. I was unaware of that. And then when the campaign started, the Surgeon General came out and said, smoking causes you cancer and you can die and you shouldn't be doing this. And, after enough education, I think we're still doing that. Actually, in Albany, we put money into advertisement to get people not to smoke. So I think, and we've done a good job. We're still working with our young people because sometimes they're not aware of all this. But so do we have to do the same thing about sitting a lot? I mean, do we do the same kind of a campaign? What do we do?
So the smoking campaign has been overwhelmingly successful. We're and the decline is exponential in the new smokers. My hope is, though, that it wouldn't need to be something so targeted at what I consider to be a sub-problem of a larger problem. I think that the word is getting out about seeking out physical activity, and that the only way to live a long, healthy life is to make investments into that. You can't retire with no money. You can't live long without good health. And the way we build good health is by staying active and having a good diet and maintaining stress levels appropriately. So I think that in encouraging people not to have large periods of sedency, which is what this slogan is about, it's really wrapped into a larger message in taking care of your body. The machine won't keep running unless we do the necessary routine maintenance.
So let's think about, you go to the office, and I must admit, the first half of the year as a member of the State Assembly means I'm up in Albany from January to the end of June. And the majority of time, we are sitting in our office with lobbyists coming in, they're paid lobbyists, and people from the community coming in, lobbying on different issues, and we're sitting and listening to all these issues. Then we are sitting in the New York State Legislature, in the Assembly, and we're listening to a debate, and we're debating. If we're debating, we're standing, actually. But otherwise, we're listening to what our colleagues have to say about issues. And then when we're trying to come to consensus, we sit in our rooms, and we talk and we talk and we talk all day, and then we go out late for dinner, sometimes at 8 or 8:30, and we have been sitting all day. So I feel at the end of the session that I have the problem that you're talking about, but I'm not necessarily in front of a computer. I'm just sitting listening to somebody. The second half of the year I run around, and so I actually feel very much better. But so with people that have jobs where either you are at a lot of meetings, or the majority of people probably have jobs that are in front of a computer now, and they're talking to everybody by computer. Do you suggest certain things for people to do?
The list of possibilities and suggestions is almost limitless at this point. There are people whose whole job is to implement these things in workplaces. The person who founded this term, sitting is the new smoking, is coincidentally the founder of the treadmill desk.
Oh. Well, wait a minute. What's a treadmill? I know what a treadmill is.
So it's a desk station,
right,
at about standing height or bar countertop, and literally has a treadmill underneath.
So
it can be challenging to type or read extensively on it because of the oscillations, but very common for people who do a lot of conference calls, where the notes are minimal, but they have to have the intellectual conversation, and they're just at a leisurely walking pace the entire time. To plug the American Heart Association again, they have many of these in their offices. But I do know that it's not conducive to all forms of work. Somebody very smart who saw that, but was also ingenuitive, came up with the sitting cycling desk.
All right, so how does that one work? So you're sitting in a
small
desk like
little
we're
bicycle
here,
pedals underneath, and the legs are moving, which in my mind doesn't negate all of the anatomic downsides of sitting, but is certainly keeping the blood pumping. And it's actually become really common in some classrooms for attention deficit hyperactivity disordered children, because it helps them get out some of their hyperactivity, but they're still looking at the teacher and engaging.
That's so interesting, because I had been a teacher, and I remember it was so important to go out for recess, because you had to get that out of everybody. So you're saying now in a school, potentially we might have some wheels underneath those chairs that are
it's
moving
an idea,
around.
and it's been successful in some of its trials. Some other, when you don't have as much time constraints. The example you gave is challenging because you can't really probably get up in the middle of a session or a speaker. But if you're just tied to a desk because of your job, the two things I recommend largely are very small cups of coffee, which necessitate frequent refills, and very large cups of water, which necessitates frequent bathroom breaks.
Oh, very interesting. That seems like a kind of simple thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. Now, I guess there has to be a whole view from the boss, so to speak, about, and you had mentioned something about people coming in now, professionals coming in to kind of rearrange how people are working in your offices. But people have to be able to accommodate that. The owner of the company, whatever, has to really be looking at that. Are they looking at? Could they look at it obviously for the health of the people that work for them, but maybe the efficiency and productivity? Does that relate to all of this too?
There has been some research about the ergonomics of workstations and negating missed time, and then how the capital investment relates to diminished losses in productivity. Mm-hmm. And I think increasingly employers are realizing that employee satisfaction, happiness, wellness, happy people who are comfortable in their job, who feel like the employer cares about them, typically are better employees. Mm-hmm. So I think some simple things like not scrutinizing bathroom breaks or trips to the coffee pot, or making a small capital investment in an adjustable sit-to-stand workstation, or separate monitors and keyboards so that we can correct the ergonomic deficiencies associated with laptop typing, where the neck is in a non-neutral position and it's not good for your shoulders or hips.
So what do you do about that?
So typically I recommend people not use a laptop in settings where it's not necessary. And then plug that laptop into either a separate keyboard that can be placed where is appropriate for the shoulders, and then put the laptop at visual height so that the neck is not flexed.
Right.
Separate the keyboard and monitor effectively, which can be done with a separate monitor or a separate keyboard.
Now, are there places, I was just thinking the other day with my computer, actually, I put a book under it because I was realizing that I was looking down like this. I was actually having a crick in my neck. So, but by putting it up, I don't seem to have that. So do people come in and, or is there a place to go for somebody? Does the hospital have a place where people go and just kind of can explore a better system for how they can get their work station all provided for them?
So at the hospital, not specifically. I typically tailor my recommendations for workplace ergonomics based on whatever ailment a patient comes to me with. And it's simple things that I can write prescriptions or letters to employers, and often they have an HR team that does workplace ergonomics or contracts out people who do consulting in that area to retrofit workstations. It's not a cookie cutter thing. Sometimes it's based on what's bothering an individual. But there are a lot of resources out there, a lot of consulting firms, a lot of new and very simple technology.
Is there this probably is just an individual question, but are there a certain number of hours that people are working in front of the computer that causes more difficulties, or is that just related to the individual?
So the research studies found that hard to tease out because many of the individuals they were following really were glued to their desk and computer for 8 to 13 hours in the day. But based on their findings in the studies, they're doing now interventional studies. So the same group of people, but they set their watch alarm or their Fitbit alarm to cue them to get up and stretch or walk every 30 minutes to see then if that makes any difference in what they're finding in the studies. Leads me to believe that that's what the experts in the field think. So when I make recommendations to my patients, I'll say set a cell phone or watch alarm or an activity monitor alarm to alert you every half an hour. And maybe for one of those, just stand for a minute or pump your calves or switch your station to standing workstation for a while. And then maybe when it goes off after an hour, that's the time you really do need to take that 2-minute walk. But by then, hopefully, you need to use the restroom or get another cup of coffee.
Right. And I suppose it's probably good to have to walk on the street to get lunch. I mean, little things like that that'll force you to...
almost a slippery slope, because typically packing a lunch is a healthier option. But one of the recommendations was actually to just take your lunch outside. Just because you have a bag lunch at work doesn't mean it needs to be eaten at your desk or in the cafeteria.
Right.
So when the weather permits, I also always feel like I miss out on some of the most beautiful times during the day. So to just go outside for lunch seems so appealing.
Right.
And you get a few extra steps in along the way.
So how many steps are we supposed to have as individuals on a daily basis? Depends on age? What does it depend upon?
To the best of my knowledge, there has not been any age discrimination in this recommendation, and the American Heart Association espouses 10,000 steps per day, which is actually quite a bit. With my short legs, it's a little over 3 miles. And I think most people are unaware of how few steps they actually take, because there is a fair amount of activity during the day. The difference, though, is that the distance is typically not very great. So, for instance, on a day where I wake up, I'm a pretty active person, walk my dog, walk down to my car, which is not parked inside the house in a garage, drive to my office, stand for 8 hours and see patients, but really only walk 20 feet from room to room to see them, go home, walk my dog, and have just some dinner. It will only be 3,000 or 4,000 steps, and then I'm thinking, oh geez, I got to go for a 2-mile walk to make the American Heart Association happy today.
You have to push yourself out at the end of the day.
Yeah, which can be rough to rally after dinner.
So, do you have a pedometer that
I do.
that you carry that is on you all the time? Or
yes, I wear just a wrist watch style activity monitor. The technology is endless in this regard. They can be as simple as a little clip that goes on your belt that measures your steps, to wrist-worn ones that actually track your sleep and the quality, to ones that track how many flights of stairs you do during the day, for people who are interested in knowing that, and even your heart rate, to figure out if you're recovered or overstressing yourself.
Does your quality of sleep have anything to do with the energy level that you've had during the day at all?
I'm certain it does. I think it just often goes unrecognized. I think it's a vicious cycle sometimes. You don't sleep well, you feel unenergetic the next day, you have a rough day, you don't feel like exercising, you're mentally tired at the end of the day but maybe not physically tired. You find yourself watching late night television well past bedtime, and again, bad sleep, low energy, that takes a toll on somebody. I think it's important to take inventory of all these things that we need to maintain for a healthy lifestyle.
Right. So do you think, do people need courses on this, or are the human resources areas of businesses really getting into this? Of course, you have small businesses that don't really have human resources available to them, but how do people get all this information?
So I'm faculty at Columbia, and I was just made aware that we actually have a lot of resources through a wellness department for the whole medical center, employees from faculty down to entry-level individuals, and the resources are really quite impressive, from groups that walk at lunch, groups that have already been walking at lunch and now are taking the stairs, some benefits to discounts on your health insurance if you register your activity monitor with their website and they see that you regularly exercise. So I think the larger employers that have the benefit of all these resources really are stepping up the game and making sure that the education's out there, that there are resources and benefits to their employees for participating in these programs.
That's great, and I would assume that if you work for somebody that's doing that, you're going to talk to other people, and maybe that will ripple around, and everybody will get engaged in this. I have to tell you, I just had a meeting up in Phillipstown with all the hikers. Too many hikers, but I'm thinking what you said is that people are feeling that they need to do much more walking, climbing, exercising, and that's probably what's happening around our state. Our parks are getting more filled with people, which is really a good thing.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and then it comes full circle. People appreciate the parks and do their part to help preserve them for the state of New York. I just don't recommend beginners go on breakneck hike, that's all.
Right, and too many of the beginners are on breakneck. Well, because they were talking about the emergency workers having to go up and find people.
It's difficult, yes, it's challenging.
So, have you been up there?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay. It's
don't go if it's slippery.
Spot.
Yeah.
Right. So, you had started out, I know you've done earlier work with sports teams and that kind of thing, and there's so much discussion going on, actually, with sports and the various types of sporting activities that young people are getting involved with, and what's happening with their bodies and all this kind of thing. Are there recommendations that you can give to parents and others about the sports?
There's a lot of research in this area too, largely different groups. But there's really two areas of concern with our young people. There's the group who are not interested in organized athletics and are becoming sedentary at an age where we expect our children to be rambunctious and very active. And it's not such a short-term problem for health risks for our youth, but it's more the habits that we establish for our life.
Well, we have a lot of diabetes and obesity starting at a fairly young age now.
Yes, and so that's a population that's concerning, that needs encouragement to participate for the physical health benefits, the psychosocial health benefits, the character development that comes with being active in a sport, be it even golf, would get some of these video game playing young people out and moving more. The other side that gets a little bit more press in my field, in sports medicine, is the hyper-specialized 7-year-old gymnast that trains year-round and actually starts to get adult-type overuse injuries because of the amount that they're training and practicing and the rigor of which. And that's another concerning area. The balance is that the trainers and coaches and parents believe that if they don't specialize at an early age and do this 10,000 hours of practice that it requires to become an expert,
right,
how will
they'll
they
never
ever
be the champion?
Exactly. And there may be some actuality to that, but if they sustain a career-ending injury at 7 years old, then what was all of that stress for? So most NCAA elite college athletes, Division I scholarship athletes, played multiple sports through youth and high school. So we have a lot of evidence to show that you don't have to be a single sport year-round, multiple hour per day athlete to become elite at a certain sport. And so I think the message that we're trying to get out is to allow kids to do multiple things, to avoid a single sport year-round until after age 16, and that theoretically decreases our chances of burnout and disinterest, over-stressing the youth that are supposed to be enjoying these sports, and decreasing the chance of unnecessary and very avoidable overuse injuries.
And that is for parents to have some discussions with some of these coaches that, I see this in my grandkids, that they, a coach wants you to only concentrate on this particular sport. And what you're saying is until you're like 16, you should have a number of different things that you're involved, unless you can't do, if for some reason you're just not athletically inclined to do something else.
So the way I usually spin it maybe is that, yes, you're an elite soccer player, and that is our goal sport, to get you on the national team for soccer. But soccer players have to have good speed, agility, quickness, strength, and endurance. So the 6 months a year that I'd like you not to be playing soccer, we can do 3 months of speed, agility, and quickness training, in the gym or at your school or with a trainer, or maybe go play ultimate Frisbee for that period of time, because it's going to eliminate the injuries of the foot and ankle, but allow you to develop those.
That's a tough sport, actually.
Those other skills, and then 3 months in the weight room maybe to develop that strength that doesn't innately just come with extra hours of soccer. And you've decreased the exposure hours to soccer, but effectively made that person a better athlete for their sport.
All right. Well, there's some work in that area, I think, that we all need to do. So somebody who needs to exercise and they just don't know where to start, they've been lying on the couch, or they've been stuck in front of the computer. What's the first approach? How do you kind of get into it? What's the best thing to do? Is there one thing or many things?
The hardest part about change is biting off more than you can chew. So don't approach it New Year's resolution style, where you're going to go from sedentary to running your first marathon in 3 months. Find a buddy or adopt an old dog and just institute increasing your activity. Walking for an hour 3 times a week is an outstanding way to start. If you truly were sedentary, that probably quadruples your activity, and it's a maintainable, sustainable goal. Other easy ways are if you were to join your local Planet Fitness for something like $10 a month. It comes with a couple of free personal training sessions to start. It's a great way to get educated about the resources that you have and some things to do that would be appropriate for your fitness level without risking attempting something that maybe wasn't a good idea and learning the hard way.
So does an individual need to speak with their physician first about it, or if you go to one of these fitness centers and you're just starting out at a very low level, you're okay?
So typically the fitness centers do a good job of taking enough history on an individual to identify what we'd call red flags. So you have this condition or you take this medicine, so you really should speak with your doctor. But a general rule of thumb is if you're on medications for your heart, blood thinners, or blood pressure, it is probably good to start with physician guidance. Walking is never going to be dangerous for somebody, but there are some activities that may be ill-advised for someone on certain medications, and your doctor is the best person to advise you.
It's so interesting. You mentioned adopt a dog. I do have a lot of people that I know that have dogs, and they are walking all the time. And I do see a lot of people with a dog. You have to walk with a dog.
Otherwise you feel guilty.
Right, right. That dog has to get out, basically, and you've got to go somewhere with it. And it's an amazing way to I guess it solves two problems. If you adopt a dog and you go to the ASPCA and whatever else.
Saved a
you've
life.
Saved a life, and you've
it
also
likely saved yours.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes.
So, just as we kind of conclude, where do people get the best guidance on all of this? Do they start to read books? Do they go to a program like yours that you had at the hospital? How do you engage people in learning to change their life's pattern, whether they're sitting in front of the computer needing we sat here a while. We should have probably stood up for a little bit, right? But we're all mic'd, so we can't do that. What do you think are some of the best ways for people to get that kind of information?
So I think it's about knowledge is power and using any resource you have available to you. The internet is a powerful one. So if you're interested in activity groups, walking groups, silver sneakers, ways to increase your activity.
What are silver sneakers? I don't know. That's a group of older people?
So Silver Sneakers is a free program for anyone who has Medicare. It's basically a free gym membership with classes catered to people with arthritis or foot condition or back conditions, so that we make sure that you're not doing anything that would be a bad idea for you. And it's a great resource.
Right. Well, obviously, it's something I needed to know about and hear about. So it's the exchange of information that is so valuable.
And the internet is useful. Your primary care doctor can be a useful resource, probably not to answer every question that you have, but get you pointed in the right direction. The public libraries often have some information about local ways to be active and programs like that.
Right. And actually, a number of our for older people, the senior citizen programs, I mean, they have a lot of trips that they take and other types of more limited skill building in the way of exercise, I think, in our areas. So now, the hospitals are involved in some of these approaches, just like you having the program that you did. I know there's been some eating programs, how to cook for yourself. And
many of the hospitals are doing outreach and education because knowledge is power in terms of health, and it's not traditionally done well in a physician's office. But at Hudson Valley Hospital, there's even a wellness center, which is like a mini gym where the physical therapists are the people there as your consultants to make sure that the activities you embark on are good for your particular medical diagnosis, or helping you increase activity with avoiding pain for people who have injuries, illnesses, chronic conditions.
Right. So we have a lot out there. We just need to learn about it. I want to thank you, Dr. Belkin, so very much. And I've learned a lot, and I know our viewers have too, and there's always information that can